think really Andy fits our style of offense.
Some of the things that Andy has done in his career, in his 10 years in this league, that fits schematically some of the stuff that we have done here in the past 3 years.
He can handle the drop back game. He can handle the RPOs, the play actions, the movements.
Now, some things will be a little bit different. There's going to be some things that Andy likes that Mitch and Nick hated.
He's one of the more complete quarterbacks that we evaluated this year in free agency, and we're excited to have him.
Welcome to this Barroom Network special report. Danny Shimon and I are here to talk about the press conference from today. Danny, how are you?
I'm doing great. I just can't stop laughing every time I hear those two talk.
I know.
It's like, just give me the truth, man. It's all right. It's okay. It's lion season. We understand. It's okay.
When I was writing the description to this show, what I came up with is, that they were trying to convince us that the team is going to be better next year. But what was obvious is that they're getting worse and worse at doing press conferences. Because This to me, and now the other media isn't saying this, but this to me was another Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy fiasco. We've got plenty of sound bites. Danny and I are going to probe them. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to complain, because this really, in my opinion, was in many respects a train wreck. Now, there were a couple of things, to give them credit. There were a couple of things that I thought were pretty cool. And I know that you didn't get a chance because you've been busy all day. I know you didn't get a chance to listen to the entire conference, but I think the sound bites that I got plenty of them. I think you'll by the end of this, you'll be saying, okay, I don't want to hear anymore.
Well, I did listen to a majority of the Ryan Pace press conference. The Matt Nagy one I did not. But the one thing that from reading snippets online and through Twitter, the one thing that I heard from Matt Nagy that concerned me, and I'm sure we'll get into this, is he's taking back play calling.
Yes, that stopped the presses on social media. That when he said that. And, it was part of a two-part question. So somebody asked something and then, and also, can you tell us whether you're going to be calling the plays? So he goes into this 10-minute long response to the first part of the question. And then he says, and then to the other part, I will be calling the plays. And then his voice starts to trail off. He
tries to hide it. I'll be calling plays. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh. It's like... I keep saying this because I come from, for 15 years, I worked in corporate America, training executives to speak and giving them tips and helping them with their communication strategy. I don't know if anybody in the Bears helps these guys because they don't instill any confidence there at all. You want them to go out there and say stuff that you're going to say, you know what, I think he's full of shit, but at least I feel a little bit better. But they don't even do that.
The one thing that's obvious is both Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are bad at lying. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So because I remember Matt Nagy in his first press conference when he was hired, it was so refreshing, right? He was a guy that was open with the media, was answering all these questions, was just, forthright in terms of what he was planning on doing. Coming from the John Fox era where everything was, undercover, CIA type of stuff.
Exactly.
It was a refreshing, a breath of fresh air in terms of this coach. And the next thing you know, after the, a couple of losses and some couple 8 seasons, and all of a sudden he's going into that whole, say, less and less every time I go out there and just say words, but really don't tell the media or the fans anything, in terms of your intentions. It's bad for Ryan Pace if he's that way, because then the other general managers, when he's trying to make a trade, tend to know that who he's going after, and if there is really his best offer, for example, if he's trying to make a trade or whatnot. So
yeah, you wonder that, right? Absolutely. You wonder how the other general managers, and we'll only find out after next season when he's fired, if that even happens, because I got a feeling these guys are behaving in a way that their jobs really are not on the line. I said that about 3-4 weeks ago on a show, and you said, yeah, thanks, Aldo, for making us all. It wasn't you, it was the Java phone, I think it was. And I truly believe that the reason they didn't answer that question about Ryan Pace's contract and whether it was extended or not, it's because it has been extended, and perhaps it's been even extended longer than beyond the 2021-2022 season. So, holy cow, these guys are behaving like they're going to be here for a long time.
See, now that I initially heard you say that, and I'm like, well, that sounds a little, like conspiracy theory-ish, but now that the way he's been going about his business, he seems very comfortable for a guy that could be in a final year, quote unquote, a final year of his contract. So I wouldn't surprise me if Ryan Pace was extended, but I doubt Matt Nagy's been extended. So maybe Ryan Pace says, hey, you know what? If we have a losing season this year, we go 7-10, 17 game season this year. 7-10 is a possibility now. So if they go 7-10, I'm getting rid of Nagy. And he's gonna be the scapegoat. I'm gonna get another coach. So yeah, we'll see. But I've told you before, and I've told Neil the same thing. And I still feel that there is a big move up his sleeve, Ryan Pace, that is. And I whether it's this fantasy Russell Wilson trade or whether it's moving up in the draft and grabbing a young quarterback, I just can't envision them going into the season with Andy Dalton. Yes, that Andy Dalton that they were praising today in this press conference, at the 3-time Pro Bowler, the guy who's who's always available to play. He's that's one of his strong points there.
Yeah, I have a graphic saying that he's played 142 games. Let me call it up. There it is. He's made this is one over his 10-year career. The 33-year-old Dalton has started 142 games. He's made the Pro Bowl 3 times, but the last one was in 2016. That's 5 seasons now.
Right.
I don't know, man. There's no confidence that I walked away from. There was a couple of things that he said that I said, okay, well, that sounds a little better. I'll play it and we'll get to that. But the other thing I want to say before we begin listening to these sound bites is we're always very critical of the sports media here in Chicago. And I try to give them as much credit because sometimes I think they're unfairly treated. Well, today there were probably 3 or 4 really good questions, and then the rest of them were like softball questions. Like, they asked almost more than half of the questions were about Mitch Trubisky. And right. Do you really need that many? I mean, he's not going to say, yeah, I fucked up. I screwed up on Mitch Trubisky. Can we move on? He's not going to say that. He's going to just hem and haw. So just tackle some of the other things. Get back to that contract. Hey, you avoided that contract talk last time. Is there any reason why you avoided it? Because it has us all wondering. It has all of Chicago wondering. Why not ask that question? And why not ask a number of other questions? Now, again, I've worked in the news media here in Chicago, and I have a lot of respect for what they do. A lot of respect. It's a lot harder than a lot of people think. But at the same time, I do know that there are certain things you can do, and I believe they could have offered up a couple of more tough ones than we heard today. But we heard a couple, and we'll play those for you.
Yeah, in their defense, like I said, they deal with these guys on some of them on a day-to-day basis. So they don't want that type of relationship where they're the antagonist, reporter, so on and so forth. But those tough questions need to be asked, and I just wish that. And the other thing is, if you ask those questions, I wish that they would be answered honestly. And I think maybe some of the media members saying, you know what, even if I ask this question, even if I press him on it, he's just going to spin around and he's not going to answer it. So what's the point of doing that? So that could be their way of saying, you know what. We could try, but it ain't coming out. So
right, but then I mean, and that's a legitimate point you just made up. Why are you asking the 8th Mitch Trubisky question? Okay, it's over. Right. The guy didn't do it. Mitch Pace, he kept saying, we're not going to look back. We're going to look forward. All right, so let it go. And by the way, this is the third comment. For those of you listening on the audio podcast of this version, I put up comments from the chat room. This is the third comment where somebody has said they're done with the Bears. They're not going to be watching them. Mo Bierman has already quit Major League Baseball, and now the Bears are next. Come on, Mo.
Before you quit, just give them the draft. Let's see what happens here at the draft. That's going to be key. Like I said, it's not over yet. It doesn't look good now. And like I said, I find it hard to believe that he's going to go in, or they're going to go into the season with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles as their quarterbacks. I think there's still a move up there. I know he's going to be trying. He mentioned that he was at a pro day. He was at the Alabama Pro Day, and we saw him yucking it up with Mac Jones there, and amongst the scouts and stuff like that. That's Ryan Pace, that is. So, Neil and I have talked about this constantly on this show. There are 5 quarterbacks in this first round that we feel really good about. And in terms of go and get one of these guys if you're not going to be able to pull off a trade for Russell Wilson. So, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. The roster is far from set, so we should be patient, Bears fans, and wait till the roster is set. But with what you just said there in that 30 seconds that you were talking, you raised up 3 potential good questions. You could have said, "Hey, you were at the Mac Jones camp. Can you evaluate him for us? What did you like about him? What didn't you like?" And get his, he's a scout. Ryan Pace is a scout. He could have offered us some really intriguing perspective on Mac Jones. We know he was there. Ask him how many of these players have you seen firsthand? How many have you gone to visit? And ask questions along that line. There were so many things that you just said that somebody could have followed up on a question. And I think a lot of times people show up with their prepared questions. And I got a question here about Mitch Trubisky. Oh, it's my turn. And I asked the Mitch Trubisky question, not realizing or not thinking that 3 other people before me already asked the Mitch Trubisky question. So it's kind of weird. And again, I hate to be critical. I love a lot of people in the sports media in Chicago. They got a tough job, and for the most part, they do it well. But I'm just going to bitch a little bit. Let's get to that first soundbite. Go ahead, Danny, please.
I'm saying I don't want to keep defending the media here, but they are on Zoom, right? So they're kind of in this little chat room here where they're they have to raise their hands and they're called upon. So they may not have a chance to follow up with another question. So that's just giving them some more slack. But again, I'm not here to defend them. I'm just saying that might be a possibility. Right.
You're absolutely right. It's much, much tougher now to acquire information from the brass at Hallis Hall because you're not there. You're on Zoom. So right. The technology doesn't allow for to easily get in another question and so forth. There's none of that haggling. Back in the day when I was holding a microphone and sticking in front of people, there was a lot of jostling. You try to get your mic in there, you're fighting for a question and so forth. That was a competitive sports environment. Now it's all really tranquil and people are doing it from home and stuff. It's a totally different world. Totally.
I think somebody thanked Ryan Pace for doing this today. I'm like, isn't he supposed to do this? Like every year, these general managers right before the draft, they do these little meetings and stuff.
Exactly.
Wasn't sure what I thank them for.
They have a real buddy relationship, some of these people. All right, let me see what we got in the chat room here before. Hey, Ron, what's going on? Ron says, I still think Foles and Dalton would be great mentors for a rookie quarterback, and that is what Ryan Pace said today. You heard that, right, Danny? This is a great room for a young quarterback to come into, a great QB room.
Exactly, and that's why when a Dalton signing was made, I'm like, all right, A, they're protecting themselves in case they can't pull off this Russell Wilson trade. Or B, he's a pretty good bridge quarterback for a young kid. If you draft a young kid, whether it's high in the first round or even if you get someone in the second round, probably the guy in the second round is probably not going to be able to come in and step in right away and be a starter for you. But now you have a nice bridge veteran quarterback, and the experience. He touched on this in the press conference. The experience that both Dalton and Foles offer a young quarterback is extremely valuable. Foles is a Super Bowl MVP. Dalton's like you mentioned, made 3 Pro Bowls, has been to the playoffs a number of times. So even if you get a kid that's developmental, that will probably need a year or half a year, or whatever, to kind of sit back and learn the ropes, you have 2 veterans in front of them that can go in and kind of take the rookie under their wings and kind of show them the ropes. However, I still, if they go ahead and draft a quarterback, I still find it hard to believe they're going to keep Nick Foles on the roster. I think potentially that, whether it's a 6th, 7th round pick or a conditional pick, whatever you're going to get from him, I think eventually they're going to try and dump that salary off and clear up some of that salary cap. And because teams are always out there looking for veteran quarterbacks. I heard that the Eagles were sniffing around possibly reacquiring Nick Foles, but that was obviously prior to them going ahead and signing Joe Flacco for, I think it was like $2.5 million or something like that. So, because they're going into the season with Jalen Hurts as their full-time starter after 5 starts in his entire career in the NFL. So they were looking for a veteran, quarterback to go ahead and back up Jalen Hurts. I think, of course, Foles has a statue built of him in front of their stadium. So that would have been a nice way for the Eagles to get the fans back on their side there. So. Surprised it didn't materialize there with that trade.
I want to answer this question from Mo Bierman. Just curious, can they actually hear all the questions being asked? No, it's on Zoom, so you electronically raise your hand, and only that person's mic is on. So there isn't that ambient noise that's cut off with
basically
Zoom.
There's a PR guy, right? A PR guy that calls
That's
on
right.
you and then and unmutes your mic, and you ask your question, and that's it. The mic's turned
That's
off.
exactly it. And then Daniel Harper says veteran quarterbacks aren't there to mentor anyone. Coaches can coach. Chase really mentored Mitch well. I think that might be a sarcastic comment.
Well, I mean, you're right. Coaches are there to coach. You're absolutely 100% correct there, Daniel. But the other thing is, like, the example I always like to use is Alex Smith and on how he helped Patrick Mahomes in KC. You know, Mahomes himself has come on the record and said, you know what, I was not ready coming out of Texas Tech. You know, my feet were all over the place. The way I read defenses, that he had never identified the Mike linebacker before coming out of Texas Tech. And Alex Smith helped him with all that stuff. And Alex Smith prepared him. And like I said, he's on the record saying that Alex Smith was a big key to his progression in terms of being ready to step in and take over for the starting position the following season.
That's right. And, you know, so Daniel is absolutely right. The coaches are paid to do that. But a lot of times the coaches are so focused on the starting quarterback. And so then there are opportunities for a veteran quarterback when he's sitting with a rookie quarterback to just share information. When they're watching tape together, for that veteran quarterback to take a few seconds and point things out to that rookie quarterback. Some veterans won't do it. Some veterans have said, I'm not here to coach anybody. I'm here to win Super Bowls. And that's fine. If that's their attitude, it's fine. But it is always nice when a veteran quarterback helps a younger player. And those two guys, like you mentioned, Danny.
The funniest remark was Ben Roethlisberger when the Steelers drafted Mason Rudolph. And they asked him if he was going to, show him the ropes. He goes, I'll just point him to the playbook. That was his tutelage.
That sounds like something Big Ben would say too. Michael Diaz says he's not paying to watch the Bears game this year. I will not watch them unless I return to Chicago and I'm watching local TV. Michael, come on over to my house. I'll get you drunk. You'll have a good time.
And then you watch the Bears game eventually too.
Yeah, right. They collaborated to get Foles, and now they want us to believe in Dalton, but only sign him for a year. That's a great point.
That's the one thing is that some of the things that they said today, namely Ryan Pace, was the same things he said when they signed Mike Glennon, right, in 2017. We feel confident in Mike Glennon as our starter. We feel confident in Andy Dalton as our starter. It's the same things they said when they acquired Nick Foles last year. I think Nick Foles is going to fit our offense better in terms of the RPOs and being able to get the ball off quickly and processing defenses. So it's like some of the same stuff reverberated over and over again, and that's why I tweeted out. I'm like, guys, don't believe everything that they say now. Right? This is prime lying season. Let's see what happens after the draft, and then we can go from there.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to some of these sound bites. We'll start with, again, there were a lot of questions about Mitchell Trubisky. Let's play one or two of them. This is Ryan Pace talking about Mitch and, what went wrong. But he wouldn't really answer the question. Here you go.
Mitch battled for this team, Pat, and I think, really a lot of our ability to be in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years is a credit to him. And I think, he sacrificed a lot for this team, and I just say we wish him nothing but the best, and now we're looking forward.
What went into the decision to not bring him back?
There's a lot of factors, and there's multiple people involved in that, and at the end of the day, we want to get better in different areas of our team, and that's one of the areas of our team where we feel like we're improving.
Why can't you just say, we were not happy with the way he processes?
Right. It just didn't progress the way we wanted him to progress, and it was just time for us to move on as an organization. Simple as that. That's being truthful, but that's not throwing Mitch under the bus. Although we know what happened there. Just don't have to walk around and say, "Oh, he sacrificed a lot for us." And you notice he threw in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, right? He mentioned that. He kind of dug in. Hey guys, we've been in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years. For you guys, questioning my job security here. So. It's just something that that's the way that's the way he does it. That's the way he approaches these press conferences. He just, says things without really, giving us anything to kind of go off of, knowing how he feels.
I just don't get it. As a communication specialist, I would advise them, listen, you've got these fans really, really want to know. They want information. There are certain things that you can politically say that will give them something to hang on to, as opposed to we're just looking forward and stuff. It's just bullshit. It's chicken shit, in my opinion. So anyway,
yeah, Mitch sacrificed a lot to get us in the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. What did he sacrifice?
Yeah, right. So one of the weirdest parts of the press conference was the first 15 minutes was Ryan Pace, then Matt Nagy came in, and Matt Nagy was asked 2 or 3 questions about Mitchell Trubisky, and he had the longest, most convoluted responses to things. And so at one point, he had a very long response. I was going to play it, but it was like a minute and a half, and it took me too long to just get the juicy part out. So, but the follow-up question was from Patrick Finley of the Chicago Sun-Times, and he said, because Matt, as he always says, I learned a lot too. And so Pat Finley asked him, so what exactly did you learn?
I think for me, as you go through as a head coach, there's a lot of different responsibilities that you have. And so when you look back at the relationship side, the communication side, you always want to go back and say, okay, could I have done more in a certain way of communicating, maybe a different way of how you learn who he is. But as you all know, I mean, the quarterback position has changed in this league in the last, 5 to 6 years. And right now, there's just so much instant gratification that's wanted and needed with teams that, people want it right away, especially too, when you can, hit on a quarterback that's cheap, in their first four years. And so I'm always going to start with myself and say, okay, where could I have gotten better? And I just feel like, some of it there is me being able to probably, as I build this staff, and we have different parts to the coaching staff of how they deal with the quarterback position.
All right, I had to stop because are you feeling like I feel?
Yeah, I was like, what? I was all over the place.
I was like, whoa. He was talking like when I'm drinking a lot, I start a subject and then I go to another subject, but didn't finish that one. I'm talking about the subject from yesterday. It's unbelievable.
Because he went down a pattern. I'm like, all right. So he's talking about his communication issues with Mitch, right? We knew that the relationship was fractured, right? There wasn't, the communication wasn't really working there, and I think that's might have been one of the reasons why he decided, you know what, let's give Bill Lazor the play calling responsibilities. Maybe Bill and Mitch can build this bond, this relationship that can kind of help us succeed. And then he goes off and talking about a rookie contract and how it's cheap and it's instant gratification and all this stuff. And I was like, that just tells me he's trying to lie and he's a bad liar and he doesn't know what to say. So he's just making stuff up. And that's how I read it, to be honest with you.
I agree with you. I think that's exactly what was going on there. And I think he gave us maybe a little peek under the tent saying one of the reasons we got rid of him is because we want to bring in a rookie under his rookie contract.
Right. Because we have to pay him now. He's up. His contract's go up. We got to pay him.
Right.
And we have no confidence in him. Me and him don't communicate well. He hasn't progressed the way I want him to progress in this offense. And, and that's why now he says, I'm taking over play calling duties and I'm going to work on my relationship with the quarterback. So whichever young quarterback they bring in here, and there's going to be a young quarterback on this roster, whether it's a first round pick or a second or third round pick, there's gonna be a young quarterback on this roster. I'm 100% sure of that. It's just now, he's gonna have to. That's what he learned is his relationship with these young quarterbacks, how to build that bond and how to get comfortable, make the quarterback comfortable with his coach. And I think that was when he was answering that question. I was like, okay, he's giving us something here that we can kind of go off of. And then he starts talking about the rookie contract and you want him cheap and all this stuff. And
by the way, look, Mitch's contract with the Bills is cheaper than a rookie contract. I think a rookie makes more than that, right? If he's drafted in the first or second round, it's $2.5 million 1 year contract with Buffalo.
But so, I don't think Mitch would have accepted that deal with the Bears, though.
That's a great point. I think he would have said, you know what, guys, no. If you're going to bring Andy Dalton in here, I'm not going to sign for $3 million, $2.5 million to be his backup. Hasta la vista. I'll do it in Buffalo. Oh, Lord. All right. So a lot of activity in the chat room. I'm going to go on and find another soundbite for us to make fun of. So this is Ryan Pace. He's being asked, so why Andy Dalton? Why do you like him?
With Dalton, the things we like as you look at it, obviously his experience. He's a 9-year starter. He's been to 3 Pro Bowls. A lot of leadership with Andy Dalton. decision making. We like his decision making. He's won a lot of games in this league. Andy's been a durable player too. I think that's something that's understated. And I think really Andy fits our style of offense. You know, when you go through it with our scouts and coaches, you know, he can handle the drop back game. He can handle the RPOs, the play actions, the movements. And we just felt, you know, as we went through those free agent quarterbacks, he's one of the more complete quarterbacks that we evaluated this year in free agency. And we're excited to have him.
Now, his contract, Andy Dalton's base salary is $3 million with a signing bonus of $7 million for a total cap hit of $10 million. But in comparison, that sounds okay, right? But in comparison, Dalton signed a one-year deal with Dallas that totaled $3 million. So maybe Ryan Pace overpaid for Andy Dalton? Well, I don't know here. What do you think?
Well, I mean, and I read something where, and I could be wrong, but I thought they spread that $10 million out over 2 years, so that I think the actual cap hit would have been $5.5 million for this year and next year. However, that might have been a signing bonus thing, so that might have been like a cap, manipulation kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it was void contract here. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean, Dalton last year signed with Dallas as a backup. He was a clear backup, and he was paid backup money. Here he's beginning a contract, at $7 million. If his base salary is $3 million, his bonus is $7 million, so that obviously the $7 million is guaranteed. He's signed here as a guy that could be a backup or could be a starter. And I think that's how they went into this thing, where they're saying, you know what, you're going to be a starter unless we get Russell Wilson, or you're going to be a starter until the rookie we draft is ready to take over your job. So I think that's what basically, that contract kind of tells me here with Andy Dalton. That's how I read it initially. First, 1 year contract, $7 million. That's the only thing that's really guaranteed is that the $7 million signing bonus. So, and that's typically what you pay really good, backup quarterbacks nowadays. So,
right.
I think Nick Foles makes about $6 million, if I'm not mistaken. So,
right, that reduced contract that he got. Yeah, and James Foster makes that point that last year Dalton's contract was as a backup. So,
right.
Good point on that. Let's move on here and see. This is what you heard earlier, Danny. Pace talking about that this quarterback room is going to be a great experience for a young quarterback.
We have a lot of experience in that room. When you look at it now, when you combine Andy and Nick, that's a lot of games in the NFL. So I think it does bode well for a young quarterback to enter that room with the experience of those two guys and some of the accolades they have in our league.
So,
yeah,
the question in the chat room, that's a perfect follow-up to that. Let me find it here. It is, someone is asking you, Danny, which of these day 2 or 3 quarterbacks is going to be the best fit for Nagy's ideal system? That's a great question. Because I disagree with Danny Shimon, and we disagreed about this last night. He talked about it at the beginning of this show. Danny thinks there's going to be a big move for a day 1 quarterback. I don't see how that can happen because we need so much on this team. We need so much that I don't see them trading away draft assets. So I think that's going to be a day 2 or day 3 quarterback. Danny, which of those quarterbacks, day 2 or day 3, hopefully not day 3, is ideal for Nagy's system?
Well, this thing. So with Nagy's system, a lot of people think right away that they want an athletic, mobile quarterback, guys that can do the RPOs and hold on to the ball and tuck it and run with it. Because Mitch was, somewhat successful in that first season under Nagy. But with Nagy, it's a guy that's going to be able to process quickly. Whether in terms of the RPO play action stuff, whether to keep it or give it to the running back and be able to get rid of the ball quickly and be able to be accurate with the ball downfield. So if we're going to bypass the first round guys, or we're going to strictly go day 2 guys. I mean, guys in day 2 for me right now, I would think would be this kid Davis Mills from Stanford. He's a guy that about 6'3", I think 6'3", 6'4", athletic kid. Has had injuries in the past, so I think that's limited him in terms of how many games he's been able to start and play for Stanford. But if you look at him, he's got good size. He's a solid athlete. He's got pretty solid accuracy. Obviously, there are some areas in this game that needs to be improved on. But he's a kid that really does intrigue me. Now, the injury thing, that's a medical red flag that you're going to have to dig into and make sure that everything's sound and in the past in terms of his medical history. But that's a kid that intrigues me. But he's a guy I don't think is going to be able to come in here and start week 1, right? So, again, that's where a guy like Andy Dalton comes in and kind of is that bridge quarterback. The other kid is a guy that's getting a lot of hype since the Senior Bowl is Kellen Mond. And I've been on the record with Kellen Mond saying, the kid's got all the physical skills you're looking for. You look, guy's, strong. He's got a sturdy 6'2" plus frame, 230 plus pounds, almost 225 or something like that. Strong arm, athletic as heck, is a dual threat, can use his feet to make plays. If the pocket breaks down, can escape and be a threat to run with the football. The thing with him has just been inconsistencies, and I put on that Clemson tape from last year, and the kid looked lost. Yeah, deer in headlights look. And that's not and he's a junior last year. And that's not what you want to see in a junior quarterback.
Right.
Going up against,
that's top pro competition, right?
Exactly. Against top competition. So that really concerned me. This year, he played, okay. He did improve a little bit. But the thing with him is, and we saw it in the Senior Bowl practices, and we saw it in the Senior Bowl game, he'll make some phenomenal throws. There was a touchdown throw to Amari Rodgers where he zipped it in between 2 or 3 defenders in the end zone. And it was perfect ball placement. Only Rodgers could get to the ball. It was a touchdown. But then you saw, the ball where he's flirting the ball downfield, where 2 or 3 defenders can get their hands on it, put the ball up, in harm's way. I see him, during the season, you go one drive, he's, immaculate in terms of his accuracy, ball placement. And then the next drive, same game, the ball's all over the place. It's hopping in front of the receiver. It's sailing over the receiver's head. So if it's mechanics, if it's, I don't know, what it is in terms of his pressure and all that stuff. We have to dig into it more and see what it is. Could it be coached up? But physical skill set, he's got it. He has his moments on tape, and you see that special gift, that talent, and you're like, all right, something we can work with here. But there's another guy that I think is going to be at least a season, maybe 2, sitting back there and kind of learning the system. So those are 2 guys that are athletic and that can be able to, I think, thrive in this system. The other guy, I think, obviously, I'm a big Sam Ehlinger fan. I just don't think he fits what Ryan Pace likes in a quarterback. Ryan Pace likes those big, tall, 6'2", 6'3", big quarterbacks. And I think, Ehlinger is about 6'1" and change. He's athletic. He's not as athletic as some of the other guys like a Kellen Mond or as a Davis Mills. So I don't know if he fits that, but I think he would be a nice guy to fit in here because he gives you some of that RPO option. He's got to work on his downfield accuracy. And also there are some questions in terms of his the arm strength, right? He's what scouts call a max effort guy, meaning that he needs to get everything into his throw to get the ball downfield, especially on those out routes. So he's a guy that I don't think that Ryan Pace is a type of guy that Ryan Pace drafts. So unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be a fit here. But, another guy that they get talked about a lot is Kyle Trask. He put on his pro day this past week. I watched it. The thing about him is his arm strength. And he's not very mobile. He's less athletic than Mac Jones. And if you have concerns about Mac Jones and his athletic ability, then what are you going to say about Kyle Trask? So what the thing about Trask, and it was evident in his pro day, is the deep downfield throws. The ball was fluttering. The receivers were kind of slowing down to catch it. So again, that tells me his arm strength, and that's inside a dome in immaculate condition. Imagine trying to throw, a football down a field at Soldier Field, right, where it's raining, snowing, winds are gusting off the lake. How is he going to get the ball downfield? So that's my main concern with him. But where he improved this season was his accuracy downfield. I thought, his ability to place the ball, throw the receiver open is really what I saw him improve on this season at Florida. So, those are the guys that I've kind of, earmarked here for day 2. There are some guys probably in a day 3, but we're talking about even more guys.
You got to talk about this guy because this is the guy you and I liked a lot in his season at Wake Forest. What was that, 2019? But he sat out at Georgia because he transferred over to Georgia, the SEC, and he sat out. He didn't play. He didn't work out at his pro day. He didn't look good at the Senior Bowl. So what are your thoughts right now on Jamie Newman?
Right. This guy's a total project guy for me right now. Like you said, I was highly enthusiastic about watching him play at Georgia this year. I'm like, all right, he's going to be up against SEC competition, and under a head coach that runs a pro style system. We'll see how it develops. The next thing he opts out. Okay, he opts out, and then goes on to Senior Bowl. And guys, he looked bad at the Senior Bowl week. He looked even worse in the game. It just looked like he didn't pick up the offense. At times it just looked like he didn't know what the hell he was running out there in terms of play calls and all that stuff. So that was really bad. And obviously in his pro day, I haven't heard why he didn't work out, but he opted not to work out. So I think that's another red flag there. To me, that when you don't work out your pro day, when everyone else is working out and you opted off the season before, that shows a lack of competitiveness. So I want to see a guy's going to go out there and compete and show that, hey, you know what, guys, I might have opted out. I may have had a so-so, Senior Bowl week, but these are my skill sets here. I can make these throws because when you watch him on tape, the guy's got the size, arm strength. He's athletic as heck. Another dual threat quarterback. So this is a nice guy you can bring in and probably try and develop and mold. But right now, for me, like I said, he's 10th on my list in terms of top 10, and he's just barely hanging on there.
It is a major disappointment that this guy didn't see his pro day as an urgent thing, that he needed to make up for his poor Senior Bowl performance. Opting out is opting out. I'm not as a big stickler on it as Neil Stopchinski, your partner on Draft Down Tap, because there could be extenuating circumstances that he wants to keep private. But now you're at the Senior Bowl. You clearly are not performing well. Now you got an opportunity in front of scouts at your pro day to wipe away some doubts so that at the very least you could maybe squeeze into day 2 in the draft or at the top of day 3. But right now he looks like it's the bottom of day 3. Hey, Danny, did you get a chance to see that video that I sent you of your picks?
I did.
Okay. What'd you think? Can I play that? And then I'll tell people this. I made a mistake when I asked Danny to give me his top 10 quarterbacks, and I forgot to ask him also give me a one-liner or two-liner. But what I did is based on I co-host Draft Down Tap with you, based on listening to you all season, I said, well, I think he said this. I think he said that. So these are not actual quotes from Danny, and whatever he wants me to change, I will change it on the next version of this tape. But I'm going to play for you Danny Shimon's top 10 quarterbacks in this video. That was great because I got to take a piss. No, I was here. So how did I do? Did I capture your thoughts on those comments?
It's pretty spot on. It makes me feel good because it means you're listening to me during our shows.
I listen to every word you say, man. I've learned so much about football and scouting and evaluating players from you. It's always a treat, and I'll let people know. If you don't know, every Thursday for the rest of the season and many Thursdays throughout the season and off season, Danny Shimon gives his evaluation on college football players. And this year, he has teamed up with Neil Stopchinski. The two of them have been scouting every player. I mean, we're talking about not every player that's going to be picked in the draft, but we're talking about a couple of hundred players, and they're providing evaluations. And then leading up to draft week, we're going to have some really special programming for you guys, and it's all going to be Bears-centric. There's a lot of great draft shows out there, but they talk about the other 31 teams. This is going to be primarily about the Chicago Bears and how these players could fit the Chicago Bears scheme. So I'm super excited by that and super grateful that I'm partnering with Danny and Neil with their evaluations. These guys know their stuff. All right, let us move on. Let's pick another soundbite here. So this was intriguing. Ryan Pace is asked, somebody in the chat room said this too. Well, he said the same thing about Nick Foles last year. Yeah. So somebody asked him, well, why not Foles?
We had other issues with our roster. I can just say from a personnel standpoint that we improved throughout the season and that we're still striving to improve now. So it's just not all on Nick, but I think, we're always looking to add to every position and get better everywhere. And there's no more important position than quarterback. And we feel like we've done that. We feel like we've gotten better than Andy. We're excited to add him. Again, some of the things I mentioned to Mark that I think he adds to our offense. And with those two in there, we got a lot of experience heading into the 21 season.
With Nick already under contract for you, what set him apart as the clear-cut QB1 for you?
And I just think, as we go through it again, just the fit with the offense, the leadership that he provides, again, his decision-making, really, when you look back, over the years, I thought this year, over the last 5 years, this was Andy's best completion percentage over the last 5 seasons. So again, we have background with him also as you go through it. And I just think he's a good fit for our offense. So I would say the fit.
Come on.
First of all, you just threw Nick Foles under the bus by saying Andy Dalton gives you better leadership, better fit for the offense, and all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You talk about a former Super Bowl MVP. Yes, apparently he's only good in Philadelphia, but yeah, he's still a Super Bowl MVP. And you're going to tell me that Andy Dalton's going to be that much more better than him? But like I said, at this point, we listen and watch Ryan Pace's press conference just because we have to. We're obligated because we want to be informative to our fans, our listeners. But I go into it not expecting to learn a damn thing about it, about the team, to be honest with you, because he doesn't give you anything that you actually can hold on to. So one of those frustrating things.
Incredibly frustrating. We got a question here, and I'm going to answer this one. He's asking you, what is your prediction on who the Bears get for quarterback? Move up or take a flyer in the late rounds? No, you're going to have to go watch Draft on Tap because that answer will be revealed the week of the draft. All right. So with James Foster, Pace is okay. We got it. All right, back to Ryan Pace. Let's see. This was one of the really good questions. I mean, really good. He was asked, given what happened with Mitchell Trubisky, do you scout quarterbacks differently? Good question. Let's see if the answer is any good.
It's great to kind of be going through this with Matt and our coaches and our scouts, and everybody's doing a thorough job. Matt and I just got back from a pro day this week, and I think it's just us being connected on the style of quarterback that fits our offense, what we're looking for from an intangible standpoint, and I think it all comes back to just the personnel department and the coaches being connected in every move we make. And Kevin, that's just not quarterback. That's everybody we add to our team, and I think the longer we're together, the more connected we are, the better we are with our decision-making. I think that's been proven over the last couple of drafts.
Are you individually looking at quarterbacks differently than you have in your career as a scout?
That's a good question. I think every year you grow as an evaluator. I think you never stop growing in that area. So there probably are things, and not just with quarterback, with every position that I feel like we all get better at just with experience. Maybe things you value differently than you valued in the past, just as you have experiences in our league. So I would say yes.
Not if you sign Andy Dalton as your starting quarterback, but
true. But do you get the sense that he is saying, in other words, because I didn't trust John Fox's opinion on the quarterback, I did it on my own. Yep. And I fucked it up. Excuse the language.
That was
how Matt Nagy can fuck it up.
Right. That was the thing that the first thing that two things came out of this clip for me. One was that exactly this is twice now that he has thrown John Fox and his offensive coaching staff under the bus. It was first on that disaster of a season-ending press conference, and now here he says that with Matt Nagy and his coaching staff, he feels more confident in going through this process of finding the right fit. However, if we believe John Fox, he claims he told Ryan Pace, draft Deshaun Watson.
Exactly.
So maybe you should have listened to your head coach back then and drafted Deshaun Watson. You wouldn't be in the situation, as we speak. the other thing I got out of this was Ryan Pace doesn't just give everything out, right? He's very secretive. He's remember the old Bulls general manager Jerry Krause was called the sleuth because he was always like secretive and no one everybody found out what he was doing. Yep. He offered up. First of all, he was caught on camera. Him and Matt Nagy at the Mac Jones pro day. He offered up that he was at a pro day. So unfortunately, that tells me that he might not be that interested in Mac Jones.
I agree with you. I agree. Because the quarterback that he is interested in, he was wearing a disguise. He wasn't
there. He wasn't there. And the Bears were not at the, either Matt Nagy or Ryan Pace were not at the Justin Fields pro day, to my knowledge.
That is correct.
They were not at the he was at the Trey Lance.
Yes, that's day. What he was talking with the Seahawks general manager about.
Right. And then I don't know if he was at the Zach Wilson pro day. So of realistically of the guys that he wasn't there, Justin Fields is the guy that I think and I hope that they go up and try and make a play for. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't be disappointed with any one of those 5 quarterbacks, but I think I talked to you this week, Aldo, and for me personally, how I feel about these 5 quarterbacks, well, I think all of them are first round, deserve a first round grades. I think all of them will have some success in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know that this is, there are going to be some busts, right? Some guys are not going to make it. But the 2 guys that I feel really good about in terms of these 5 being successful in the league, Justin Fields is 1. Mm-hmm. And Mac Jones is 2. I really think Mac Jones, I know he's being knocked for his, limitations in terms of athletic ability, for his, talent that he had on offense at Alabama. But this guy, I'm telling you, if you're accurate downfield and if you can process, right? Tom Brady just proved it. Drew Brees proved it. If you can get rid of the football quickly and you're accurate, you don't have to be a guy that's going to be a Lamar Jackson running the ball, 20 or 30 times or 10 or 15 times and getting 20, 30 yards a chunk. You can be athletic enough to be able to buy some time, shuffle your feet in the pocket. Mac Jones can do that to be successful. And I think Mac Jones and Justin Fields for me are the 2 guys that I'm so confident are going to be success stories. Obviously, I think Trevor Lawrence as well, but I'm just saying the guys that the Bears technically could have a chance to go get. We know Lawrence is out of their league.
So you're obviously not buying any of this stuff because Justin Fields has been getting some hits lately in the media. It even started before Dan Orlovsky's incredible screw up. I mean, he really did something very stupid for a sports reporter, journalist, whatever you want to call him. What he did was dumb. He if you don't know, he said that he had heard from a couple of people that Justin Fields was the last one in to practice or to training or to study football, and the first one out, that he wasn't as committed. And most people know that is
I laughed my ass off when I heard that.
Isn't that something that was so irresponsible? And then he sends out a social media video saying, well, since that came out, I talked to a couple of more people, and he was just backtracking. It was terrible stuff by Dan Orlovsky, somebody who I generally like, but it was just irresponsible bullshit on his part. So,
on both these quarterbacks, on Mac Jones, I was studying a game of Mac Jones, and I only copy I could get was a TV copy, and Dan Orlovsky was doing the broadcast for ESPN, and his broadcast partner had asked him, Mac Jones in terms of projecting him at the next level. It was, I don't know how he's going to be at the next level. His athletic limitations. You're going to want a quarterback that's going to be able to be mobile. And I'm thinking more like a day 2, day 3 kind of guy. I was like, what? This is Mac Jones is having this great season this last year. Probably the best QBR in college football history he had last season. And now when you put on Dan Orlovsky, he's saying Mac Jones, he is one of the best prospects in this draft. The way he processes the game, his accuracy downfield. I'm like, dude, which one is it? All right. And the other thing with Justin Fields, and that's when I heard it, I laughed out loud, and we discussed it, although in the preseason when we did the kind of a preview of the quarterback class, where he was the one could have easily said, you know what, I'm out. I could easily not play this season. I'll be a top 5 pick. No worries about it, right? But no, he went to bat, and he started a petition once the other leagues were playing that he wanted the Big Ten to go ahead and play football because, and he had an interview, and he said one of the main reasons why he wanted to do it is because of all his seniors. He wanted his seniors to have their senior season. That shows dedication. That shows leadership. that shows a guy that wants to play football, a guy that loves to play football. The other thing that makes this comment by Orlovsky ridiculous. Remember that Clemson game? Remember where he got hit and he got hurt? They call it a hip injury, but I think it was a cracked rib or something to his ribs. The kid came back and led Ohio State to beat Clemson, the odds-on favorite or one of the favorites to win the national championship, and had a tremendous game. So that tells me that this kid is tough, competitive, and he loves football. So that right there, I mean, I heard that and I was like, come on, are you serious? What happens now is, and you've heard Greg Gabriel say this all the time, it's lying season, right? So Orlovsky, no doubt he was fed this information by somebody. It's because this somebody wants the stock for Justin Fields to go ahead and drop down. And this rumor to start that he's, the first person out and all this crap, and he's not dedicated and all this, and the whole thing about the first read, he only goes through one read. I've had tape with you and we've broken it down where this was tape from last year, as a matter of fact, where I see him holding the safety, going through a progression. So don't tell me he's just a one-read quarterback. That's why all this bullshit that was coming out was really pissing me off, because it's like these people are just repeating stuff that they hear, but they're not actually doing that work and breaking down the tape. And that's why it surprised me with Orlovsky, because he does a great job of breaking down tape. So that's why it's like if you break down his tape, Dan, you would know that this guy is not lazy. He's competitive, and this guy goes through progression. So that really was disappointing for me.
James Foster, clearly not a fan of Orlovsky's, writing in the chat. He's a big mouth. Nobody even knows he was in the NFL for 13 seasons. And James, I agree, but I do think that Orlovsky has improved tremendously over the last few years in being a broadcaster. He is entertaining, but yeah, I think at times he's trying a little too hard to, be controversial, to have that take that everyone's going to be talking about. And if I were to advise him, I would tell him, don't become Colin Cowherd. Stay as a legit source of good scouting and information. Don't get suckered in by all this crap.
His tape breakdown is legit.
Really,
when he breaks down plays, he does a good job of bringing you in as a fan in terms of telling you the reads, the formations, the type of motion that you're going to see here in this play. And I really enjoy his breakdowns. But that was just ridiculous what he said about Justin Fields. And it's like, it seems like every year there's a prospect that teams should try to break down, or media, I should say, tries to break down and bring down their stock, because the teams are feeding them this information because they want this player to fall and drop to them.
Exactly. All right. I want to play now a soundbite from Matt Nagy. He was asked a similar question to what Ryan Pace just answered about the challenges of evaluating a quarterback. This is the head coach, and he says it's tough to evaluate quarterbacks.
It is definitely more difficult because you just don't have, when you're there at the combine and you're able to see these guys, specifically talking about the quarterbacks, throw and see the ball come out of their hands, see their footwork. You get to see every one of those guys from the top guy to the bottom guy. And right now, you just don't have the luxury of doing that. As Ryan has said, and everybody knows, we've been to a few pro days with some of these quarterbacks and other positions, and it definitely helps. But there's only so many of those that you can do and see, and just with everything else that's going on. So, but here's what's fair is that every other team is doing the same thing. So there's a lot of teams in this league right now that are always evaluating the quarterback position. Ryan and I are super excited about going through that right now together and how we do it. And so it's a challenge, but we look forward to it. And it's there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft class.
I agree with a lot of what he said there. I mean, this is a really difficult year to evaluate quarterbacks. There's no doubt about it. You don't have that, up close look at them. It's just different. And there's something to be said about, now the general manager and the coach are working hand in hand, and they've got a good staff of Laser, John DiFilippo, and the scouting staff of, working together and really having a consensus. We know that Ryan Pace was lying when he said and Mitchell Trubisky, everyone, there was a consensus that he was the right guy. Well, that's not what John
wasn't. Yeah.
Later when he was fired, he said, I didn't even know we're going to take the guy. So, but what he said there, I'm totally with Nagy there.
Yeah, that's good point there, because a couple of things. First of all, with these pro days and the combine, without having a combine, these pro days are important because, yes, you can scout players on tape, and multiple scouts have told me this. Guys that work in the NFL have told me this, that until you see a guy in person, until you see the way they move, until you see the way, in case of quarterbacks, the way the ball comes out of their hands. Like, for example, Trey Lance. I had not seen him up close like that. I just seen him on game film. But when you watch him up close, even though it was through TV, you could still see the ball pop out of his hands. You could see the ball when a receiver caught it, the noise it would make. So you can tell that he's got a powerful arm. And then now you want to see his footwork. You want to see the way he moves. Is he natural? A good case in point, what I heard was at the Davis Mills pro day, John DeFilippo was there, and he asked Davis Mills, the guy, the quarterback guru who was working with Davis Mills, to have him do this type of throw. And Mills went ahead and acquiesced, and he made that type of play or that type of throw for John DeFilippo because he specifically asked for it. So that's why Davis Mills is on my radar in terms of a Bears prospect, guys they might target on day 2 there. So keep that in mind there too. But yeah, that makes a difference. The other thing with the combine that is overlooked by fans is because, we don't see this, but it's the one-on-one interviews. It's the way you bring these guys in. You can kind of put them up on the board, run some plays with them, and see how they process that information quickly. Ask, Did you ever see that? Not the Gruden camp, but the one that Steve Mariucci does with NFL Network, where he tries to play up on the board. Mm-hmm. It tells them all the prospect, all the formations, the player, the X, the Y, the Z, and he flips the board and says, "All right, now draw my play." That's the kind of stuff that the recollection, be able to repeat that play and be able to play it. Those are the kind of things you can pick up on with quarterbacks in these one-on-one settings. Behind the cameras, no one sees this kind of stuff. So those are the things that I really do like seeing.
Yeah, it's totally unlike when I play golf, and after we putt out, they'll ask me, "So what'd you get on that hole?" And I go, "Okay, I had 1 over there. And 2, and it takes me like 5 minutes to come up with. I had a 5 because I don't have that recall like some great athletes. I mean,
you'd be down marked for that. Your grade would be taking a big time hit for that.
Yeah, exactly. I really do find it astounding that the great athletes that I've been around, and this is professional, that I've gotten an opportunity to talk to some of guys that I hung out with, that they were the best athletes, at school or at the play lot and so forth. These guys could recall plays like they had photographic memory. Right. They couldn't count to 10. I used to go, quick story. I used to go every year on a golfing trip with a bunch of my buddies. These guys are all athletes, and I'm just an average golfer. These guys hit the ball 325 yards down the middle of the fairway. And so I would tell them, hey, the only reason you guys allow me to come with you to play golf, because I'm golfing 100, you guys are golfing in the 80s, is because I'm the only one that can read maps and the menu. Anyway, we move on. Okay, back to Ryan Pace. Now it gets really interesting here because we get into the Kyle Fuller situation. And so Pace was asked a couple of good questions. The best one was from Hub Arkish. I'll play that one second. Here's the first response to a different reporter. Maybe it was Hub, but about what happened with Kyle Fuller.
We knew as we went into it just the type of offseason it was going to be. And we knew what we were going to be in for. We knew we were going to have to make some tough decisions. And really, guys, you saw this throughout the league. Some teams releasing multiple starters. Every team had hard decisions to make. Really, in a year where projection with a cap, there's almost a $30 million difference, Brad, of where we projected it to be. And this is the unfortunate part of it. And again, I think as you look throughout the whole NFL, teams were dealing with this. Teams were having to make hard decisions. With us, it came down to really one player. But, we plan these things far in advance. There's a lot of people involved in those decisions. We always have contingency plans in place. And we wish Kyle nothing but the best. Those are hard moves that we have to make in order to construct our team.
Do you want to comment on that, or should I play the follow-up question from Hub? Let me play the follow-up.
Yeah,
Comes Hub Arkish asking Pace about, well, isn't this guy, going to be a big loss?
I get the cap situation. I know how hard it is with Kyle, but I'm curious. He's more than just a starter, one of the better corners out there. And once you realize that you had to make that move, what he got on the open market doesn't seem that much more than what was due on the last year of that deal if someone had traded for him. Why do you think you couldn't get anything in return for him?
Yeah, those are all kind of conversations we have behind the scenes. And I think, we explore everything, Hub, before those moves are made. So we were really very thorough with that process. And, I think there is a difference from a salary standpoint from what you're talking about. But we go through all those things. We explore all those scenarios before those moves are made, including trades or reductions or whatnot. And that's just the way it worked out. So at the end of the day, we wish him nothing but the best, and we feel fortunate to be able to add.
All right. Why can't he just say it takes two to tango, Hub?
Right.
Because that's what it is. They couldn't agree on an amount,
And I think about Hub, and I respect Hub Arkish for all the work he does, but there was a big difference. I mean, I think his salary was 14.5 million. Kyle Fuller's, his cap hit was going to be 20 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, and he signed for $9.5 million. So that's $4.5 million, roughly almost $5 million difference there. And in a year where the salary cap is down, $5 million makes a difference, right? So that's so where he signed and what he was going to get, I think that's that's not true there. However, I mean, listen, I like Kyle Fuller. I think he's a heck of a corner in terms of being a physical guy. A guy gets his hands on the ball a lot. But like I said in a previous show, he's not a shutdown corner. And you're going to probably miss him. But you know what? If you get that pass rush going the way it's supposed to be going, the way you're paying him to go, you put pressure on the quarterback. They got to get rid of the ball quicker. And he mentioned, I don't know if he got in that clip there, but he mentioned in the press conference I watched, portion of it was Marcus Trufant, and he also mentioned Kendall Wilder, the second year player that I liked out of Georgia Southern last year. That kid had some mistakes, but he was a rookie. He was a rookie coming out of Georgia Southern, and it was a big bump up in competition for him. Exactly. But the kid showed some moxie. He showed some toughness. The same things I saw on tape at Georgia Southern, same things that impressed me last year at the Senior Bowl practices. I saw here, the guy is quick. He's twitchy. You see him when he transitions out of his back pedal to a downhill attacking way when he comes down from run support. The guy's aggressive and he's quick and he's fast. And I think this guy has a chance to develop. You just got to give him some shot. Now you got to kind of like Marcus Trufant. Desmond Trufant in there at corner to kind of be the veteran, placeholder, if you will. And the thing about what Trufant is he's a talented kid. He was a first round pick. I think it was either 10 or 12 overall in the first round. He's had a solid career. His only problem lately has been staying healthy. And I think last year the biggest issue was a hamstring injury. So if we can get that resolved, you got a guy is not as good as Kyle Fuller in terms of being physical, in terms of run support, but he's pretty good in terms of being able to cover receiver, blanket him downfield. So if Trufant doesn't step up to the plate, then you got a kid like Vilda. Like I said, I'm really high on coming into his second season, developing, showing some traits that you do like back there at cornerback. And plus, like you mentioned, he has 8 picks in this draft as of today. And I feel like whether they keep all 8 picks, whether they trade some of these picks to move up or whatnot, I think cornerback is going to be a position that they're going to address, and that's going to be a position that we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks at Draft on Tap. And I'm telling you that there's some talented young cornerbacks out there, guys. So, rookies don't usually come in and be stars at corners right away, but you have a couple of guys there with Trufant and Vilder who can kind of be a buffer there, and then as well as Duke Shelley, who's going to probably play some of that inside nickel position. Xavier Crawford is a guy from Western Michigan a couple of years ago that they brought in as an undrafted free agent. He's a guy still on the roster.
Roberson? I'm sorry to interrupt. What do you think about Trey Roberson?
They brought him back.
Yeah, he's back. He's on the roster. I looked at the roster the other day. He's there.
Oh, because I know they cut him. I didn't know that they brought him back. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Artie Burns.
Artie Burns is back. I saw that they brought him back as well. So he's a guy that was a first round pick out of Miami, highly touted. Really struggled with the Steelers, Burns that is, and then last year, of course, tore his ACL in camp and never really had a chance to compete for a position. So there's competition there. Obviously, the depth is not great right now in terms of bringing in some guy behind Jalen Johnson, for example, coming off another shoulder injury. So we'll see how that goes there. But yeah, I mean, I'm high on Vilder, the kid that could possibly replace Fuller out there.
And I agree with Munoz here. This is something that I said on our last Buffon 55. We had a special this past week. I'm concerned about Trufant's injury history. The last 2 seasons, he's suffered from injuries, and Jalen Johnson, he's got that bum shoulder. So the projected 2 starters have an injury history over the last 2 seasons. So that is extremely worrisome. And I just wanted to give you some credit, Danny, because at the Senior Bowl, you and I got to see Kindle Vilder up close, and you were like, I'm really impressed. Every day he got better and better. First day of practice, he wasn't terrible, but he was getting burned a little bit, but he was facing competition he never faced before. By the end of the week, the guy was playing with everybody else. And then in the mock draft that we did, you picked Kindle Vilder to the Bears, and that is indeed what happened. So kudos to you, brother. All right, let's move on and roll the roulette here. And let's see. This is Ryan Pace being asked, what did you learn about the whole Trubisky fiasco? They didn't phrase it that way, but he was pushed a little bit. What did you learn? And again, typical fashion, he didn't really say much.
And you learn from every one of these things, and the draft's not an exact science. We know that. Think there's so many variables involved in this. There's so many things that happen when you draft a player. And I think, again, you do learn from it. And I think, we're the different staff now. Again, I think we're very connected to our coaches on what we're looking for.
All right, we've heard that before. This is a good one from Stacy Dales, who, by the way, Stacy, if you're watching, you promised you'd come on the Barroom Network for an interview, so we're waiting for you to contact us. But Stacy Dales asked a really good question because at one point Pace said Dalton is a good scheme fit.
You say Andy Dalton fits the scheme. What about Mitch's game didn't fit the scheme, just for clarity?
There's a lot of things that come down to that. And again, Stacey, we're really looking forward and excited about Andy. And I would talk more about that. I just think Andy's experienced. He's played in a lot of games in this league. He's won a lot of games in this league. Andy makes good decisions. He's accurate. And we just feel he's a fit for our offense. So instead of talking about the past and Mitch, I'd like to more talk about the future with Andy and what he provides. And we're excited about that.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
I can answer it for him. He couldn't process quick enough. He wasn't accurate downfield, even though when I drafted him, I said he was probably one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the draft, which was not correct. So he just didn't progress as we want him to progress. That's why we let him go. That's the reason why he's no longer here.
Everybody would have accepted that. It would have probably, and they strategically put this press conference on a Friday because that's usually a bad news day. You can say things and people will make a big deal out of it. He should have just said the truth. Nobody would have remembered it by tomorrow. But now we remember that he bullshitted us again. So, all right, we move on. Let's see. I got a couple more. I really should I save this one for last? Yeah, I'm going to save this one for last. Let's move over to Matt Nagy talking about the play calling. This is crazy.
For me, again, without getting into too much of last year, there's a lot of things that go into that. And, when we look through the scheme eval and where we're at, it was for me just something that I feel good about. And it's I'm not real. That's like a minor deal for us right now. We're just going through all this stuff, this film, and seeing where we're at. We got bigger things to worry about than that. So it's just that's where we're at right now.
What was the question? What?
He was asked. It was a follow up to the play calling. Why are you doing it? Why have you decided to move back in? And he just didn't answer. Why can't he just say, listen, I think I'm really good at the play calling. It didn't work out. Bill did a great job last year, but I'm very confident that I can do the job. And with a veteran quarterback who I think is a better scheme fit for what I want to do, I'm confident that it's going to go well. Just put your chest on and say, hey, I'm in charge. I'm going to do it. All that shit.
The truth is, me and Mitch, we weren't seeing eye to eye on the play calling. Mitch came out during the season and said that, he's went to the coach and said, hey, let's put some of these plays in, and for whatever reason they're not in the system. That was basically throwing his coach under the bus.
Yes.
So, just say it didn't work. I gave it to Bill Lazor. It worked somewhat successfully for a bit of time there, but we just made a change. Simple as that. One thing that surprises me with him taking over the play calling, you would think that with Andy Dalton coming in and his relationship with Bill Lazor in the past, that familiarity would be a nice cohesive, transformation with Lazor and Dalton, instead of just putting yourself into it here, Matt Nagy, and going, being the play call. I think Lazor would have been a nice fit there, just to continue to have him call the plays, since he's worked with Dalton in the past.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. That was asked about that relationship with Bill Lazor. Is that, and he says, yeah, that's good and so forth. And I didn't play it because, again, he was just talking in circles and contradicting himself. He did it a couple of times. But it was a good question. One question that I wish they would have asked, and it just escaped my mind. It'll come to me a little later. Let's move on to the soundbite that I think gave me. This was Ryan Pace's best response to a Jason Leisure question. Jason is one of my favorite beat reporters. He asks tough questions. And
yes, he does.
Yeah, he said, what can you say to people who want to know if this is going to be a better team next year? Now, I cut down his response. It was probably 2 minutes. I cut it down to a portion of what I liked the best. This is his response.
We had limited resources in regards to the cap, and it was important for us to retain certain players. So I think as we go through it, and first off, getting guys back like Cairo Santos and Mario Edwards and Jermaine Ifedi, just to name a few, that was kind of the first step in our offseason process. But we challenged ourselves in free agency, really with limited space, to get better. And I thought our pro scouts and our coaches did a really good job adding valuable pieces. Were we big spenders in free agency, Jason? No, but I thought we addressed a lot of needs. As you talk about guys like Andy Dalton and Angelo Blackson and Jeremiah Tashu, Desmond Trufant, Christian Jones, Isaiah Wilkerson, Damian Williams, to name a few, those are all needs for us and important players for us to add. And that's all before we go into the draft with 8 picks. So I think that all bodes well for us, in addition to us continuing to grow and develop a lot of our young players. So I think of guys like Jalen Johnson and Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney, James Daniels, David Montgomery, those guys continuing to grow, that bodes well for the Bears. So all of that, I would add to the excitement with our coaching staff. Really excited about Sean Desai and some of the things we've done on defense. And so I think as we look into 2021, the additions we've already made, the growth of our players, and some of the changes we made with the coaching staff gets us excited.
He did it. He did it. A great response to a question. I actually was nodding along. Okay, yeah, some of those names that you picked up, they are good free agent acquisitions. Damian Williams, that running back from it was the MVP, should have been the MVP in the Super Bowl. That's a great acquisition. A number of those other guys are good. I'm not too crazy about Jermaine Ifedi playing right tackle, but again, they've got these draft picks. He hit it out of the park there, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. But I also read it. Well, he didn't say it, but the way I read it was we added depth because we have these 8 draft picks, and I don't know how many of these 8 draft picks I'm going to actually use because I'm going to trade up to get that quarterback everyone's been crying about. So that's why I added depth here, and veteran depth. And I think Damian Williams is a sensational pickup to back up David Montgomery. I think. Fetty, I'm with you. I think they could upgrade there, but they got this kid Wilkerson who's played both right and left tackle, and he was a starter last year for Denver before he got hurt. So let's see what he could bring to the table.
Stay right there with that name, because I think I got a video of him that I wanted to share with you and the audience. It was posted on Twitter because this guy, my research on him is this guy had 19 quarterback pressures last year.
No, I'm talking about Elijah Wilkerson, the tackle, the offensive tackle. You're talking about Jeremiah Atucci.
No, I'm talking about. But right now, I'm talking about Angelo Blackson.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
This guy had 19 pressures. Take a look at this, and it's a 5-second clip. I'll run it slow so that you can do your coaching stuff here. I mean, your scouting stuff. Here he is, coming right up the middle. Just blows by that guy.
Right. Use his hands. Gets right at it. That's a nice swipe swim. Get past the center there. Bringing pressure up the middle. And that's the best way to pressure these quarterbacks nowadays is just get pressure in their face, make them go either, duck like that, like Russell Wilson just did, or, run into the arms of your outside guys coming to the rally there as well. So yeah, definitely a guy that doesn't have the big stats, but a guy that can give you depth. We're talking about, losing Roy Robertson Harrison. So this is a guy that can probably come in and fill some of those snaps, you lose with him there as well. So again, these are depth guys that are going to come in and be contributors right away. Again, in my theory, freeing up some of those, those draft picks to go ahead and move up there and get that quarterback.
And I'm sorry, when I interrupted you, you were talking about Jeremiah Toshu,
that the outside linebacker that I think is a very underrated pickup in terms of the outside linebacker position. I think this is a guy is a twitchy outside edge guy. I think this is a guy that has showed throughout his collegiate career that he could get pressure on the quarterback. Had some limited success last year playing in a Vic Fangio system. I think he had 5.5 sacks, which might have led the Broncos last year. And again, he's coming to a system where now they're going to be basically with Sean Desai, replicating that Big Fangio scheme, if you will. So I think it's a nice fit, and I think it's another under the radar pickup along with Damian Williams and Wilkerson and this Blackson kid to see how we can. And then Trufant could be a nice under the radar pickup as well too. So and again, I keep repeating myself here, but I feel it, man. I'm telling you, there's something big's gonna happen. That's my feeling here. I'm not reporting anything. I have no sources. I'm just as a gut. I just know how the way Ryan Pace attacks a position of need, whether it's pass rusher, go get Khalil Mack, whether it's quarterback, go get a Mike Lennon for agency and then go trade up and get a guy like Mike Trubisky. The only thing with Trubisky was he had the draft capital, the number 3 pick to go ahead and move up, and number 2 and secure him. But I just think that if there's a quarterback that drops, I think there's a way for him to go up and get him. I think he's going to go ahead and do it. And if he's willing to give up 3 first-round picks, this is where I know where me and you differ, Aldo. If he's willing to give up 3 first-round picks to go get a guy like a Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, if you zero on a guy like, say, Justin Fields, for example, and you're confident that this guy's going to be, your starting quarterback, from 10 years on, obviously there's no sure thing like a Russell Wilson, but you go give up that draft capital like the 49ers just did and go get that quarterback that's going to hopefully secure your future.
I think we've covered it, man. We've gone an hour and 15 minutes or so. We've covered all the major sound bites. Was there anything else in today's press conference of the portion that you heard that you wanted to comment on?
I think we covered it, touched about it a little bit here, but the play calling, it's just the fact that Matt Nagy's taken over the play calling really, to me, is disappointing, because I think he actually did better to me as an overall head coach if he just concentrates on that aspect of it, whether it's, being more involved in what the defense is doing, more involved in terms of challenges, timeouts, when to use it, clock management. I think if he just would just concentrate on that aspect of it, I think he's a solid head coach. So that's the thing that I heard that kind of is unfortunate, because I really will hope that he would have given that off to Bill Lazor and let Lazor run with it. But it sounds like he wants to take that back, and he wants to go ahead and be the play caller again. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah.
Coach T is saying, unfortunately, I don't think the Bears have holes in the offensive line. I don't know if that's sarcastic, but he says that they really believe in Leno. I don't think that they really believe in Leno. Right. I think that they are satisfied that the guy shows up every game and that he is, out of the 32 starting left tackles, he's probably up there at 16, 17. So there's
he's slightly above average left tackle. He's not going to be great. I know he's made a Pro Bowl.
Terrible games. He's had some terrible games, especially in 2019. But last season, he had one of his better seasons.
Right. He bounced back. And again, he's a guy that's going to make mistakes, whether it's a holding penalty or whatnot, or offsides. But most likely, we see him being, a guy that won't get your quarterback killed, right? I mean, there are some turnstiles that play left tackle in the NFL, and I think Leno, to his credit, last year got a little bit better. He's never going to be great. I know he's made a Pro Bowl in his career, but I don't see him as a Pro Bowl left tackle. No. So we'll see how that goes. This is a draft that for me has got a lot of tackle options there, and I would love to see them. If they keep all their picks, the 8 picks, I mean, you can probably get a guy in the 3rd round that can probably come in and compete. Probably more likely at right tackle than left tackle right away. But definitely, you have some prospects here at the tackle position that you can definitely, beef up your offensive line. And I think like Alex Bars, for me, he played left tackle and right tackle in Notre Dame. He's a guy that if Eddie and Wilkerson can't get the job done, I would have no problem putting him out there at right tackle and see what he can do. I mean, he can't be any worse than Eddie was. So that's another guy that I have high hope for in terms of that offensive line.
One of the questions in the chat is, how high do you think the Bears could potentially move up in this draft? So we know that Jacksonville is drafting a quarterback. Now there seems to be some question as to whether the Jets are going to draft Zach Wilson, because they sent out a letter to their season ticket holders, and who was the player on the picture?
Sam Darnold, yeah, Sam
Darnold. So
but
maybe
I don't read into that. I mean, because they theoretically, they could draft Zach Wilson and still keep Sam Darnold if they're not getting what they want for him, right? Because he's still on his rookie contract. He's not relatively, he's relatively cheap, if you will. You can still have Zach Wilson sit back there for a year, have Sam Darnold play, or see what happens to training camp. Maybe there's an injury in camp and a team becomes desperate, and then you can get a 2nd round or a 1st round pick for him. From what I heard, that they can only get about a 4th round pick for him. Right? And teams are not clamoring for a Sam Darnold. So, I know all the talking heads on TV are saying Sam Darnold is still good. And listen, for me, if I get him for a 4th or 5th round pick, I'll take a flyer on him, sure. But I'm not giving up anything day 1 or day 2 for him. No way. Because he isn't showing me anything other than just physical skill sets to be able to get the job done. But he hasn't actually done it in a game, be able to show me he can process a game. He's had turnover issues going back to his days at USC. And some of those turnover issues have followed him here at the NFL level. Again, they're going to be playing the supporting cast around him with the Jets in terms of the lack of receivers, in terms of the lack of offensive line. They blame Adam Gase for everything, but some of it has to go on Sam Darnold as well. So, for me, it's not someone that I'm going to run out there and try and get. So we'll see. But I think Zach Wilson is probably in there at number 2. Number 3, we know the 49ers are going to go quarterback. I think it's Trey Lance. The majority of the people think it's going to be Mac Jones. Either way, it's going to be a quarterback. I think number 4 is available. I think Atlanta might be in love with Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. But
don't you think that with Matt Ryan's age, that this is a perfect opportunity for the Falcons to pick his successor?
But a couple of things, though. They renegotiated his contract and guaranteed some of his money for next year. So basically, he'd be on the books for this year for $47 million and next year for $47 million. So eating that type of debt cap, it's kind of highly unlikely. Is it undoable? No, they can get a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract and probably make ends meet. But I think that kind of cemented Matt Ryan's status or place in Atlanta. So I think they're either going to go Kyle Pitts or they're looking to trade. So we're here now. You're looking at teams that could be looking to move back. Atlanta, I think, that pick is up for sale. If Ryan Pace, he might have a relationship with Terry Fontenot, who obviously came from the Saints organization. I don't know if Pace and Fontenot cross paths while they're both with the Saints, but there could be a relationship there with Fontenot and Pace. So that could be a position where they could probably move up. You move up with number 4, you're obviously giving up this year's pick, next year's 1st round pick, and possibly another 1st round pick. So, because just look at what San Francisco gave up going from 12 to 3. They got 3 1st round picks and a 3rd round pick. So, you're giving up a lot of draft capital, right? But if you go up to number 4, the guy I'm looking at right there is Justin Fields. But let's say Atlanta keeps that pick and they go with Kyle Pitts. The next thing at 5, I heard Cincinnati's all over Jamar Chase at wide receiver. They want to reunite that combo. Joe Burrow from LSU with Jamar Chase. That combination was electric in 2019 for LSU. They want to recombine that in Cincinnati. That's from what I'm hearing. At number 6, you got Miami, who's in love with either Kyle Pitts or one of the Devontae Smith, one of those guys at number 6. Number 7, the Lions is another spot that is open for trade back. So now the question becomes will the Lions give the Bears, a division rival, their quarterback of the future, that the guy that they might have to face twice a year? So that's the other question there, because I think Carolina is in a market for a quarterback. Of course, they were hot and heavy in the Deshaun Watson Derby, Carolina, that was. And I think their owner is all in on Deshaun Watson, but with Watson's legal cases now, I think some have kind of cooled off on that. So we'll see what Carolina is going to do there. But if Carolina is not going to do a Watson trade, if Carolina's not going to, commit to Teddy Bridgewater, I think Carolina's in the market for a quarterback. So they might be the ones that kind of jump up to number 4 and grab, whether it's a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. So now you're looking at, a number 4 Atlanta dropping back. Could you now trade with Atlanta again, have Atlanta drop back to 20, you move up to number 8 and grab, Trey Lance or something like that. Again, it all depends on what the Bears board is and who's available there. But I mean, obviously it becomes more realistic once you get out of the top 10, right? Because it might be even less prohibitive in terms of draft capital costs that you have to give up. But I think if you want to go get your guy, you're going to have to look at possibly giving up 3 first-round picks to go up there in that top 6 or 7 range, 6 to 5 range to try and get your quarterback.
Yep, I'm with you there. It is if you, I know you got this gut feel that Pace is going to do something dramatic, but I just don't see how he has the assets. I mean,
the odds are against him. I agree. The odds are against him, and the worst thing.
I'm just gonna say real quick. Remember when New Orleans Saints under Mike Ditka, they traded their entire draft for Ricky Williams? Yeah. He would have to do something like that, maybe 2 drafts to move up.
It all depends, right? Because it depends on what teams are looking for. Like, for example, the rumored offer to Seattle for the Seahawks, from all reports, that was not something that Seattle oh no, we don't want that. They just said, who's our quarterback? That was their question. So, I've heard scenarios where if the Bears can get a quarterback, for example, Sam Darnold, if you can get him from the Jets, ship him off to Seattle with that package, you can get yourself a Russell Wilson. So that's why I'm thinking that might not be out of the picture there as well. Now we talk about cap ramifications and all the other stuff that's something they have to work on, but that could be a scenario too. But Seattle wants a replacement quarterback, and they're not just they only have 2 picks in the whole draft. I think their first pick is in the 50s somewhere. So Seattle needs draft capital. So if you give them a first this year, a third this year, a first next year, a second, or whatever the combination is going to take, I think they'll do it. But they just need a quarterback that they can win with. Now, if you scope the NFL, veteran quarterbacks could be available. We talked about Sam Darnold. Talked about maybe Teddy Bridgewater. We know Derek Carr is not going to be available with the Raiders unless something drastically changes. So you got to scope and see who could be available that could fit Seattle's need for a quarterback. Because if Seattle gets that quarterback in place, whether it's through the Bears or whether they go get him on their own, then I think now that opens up the possibility for a Russell Wilson trade to Chicago. So that's why I feel like this is not dead yet. I think that they're going to go up until the draft. And also there's a rule where currently the Bears could only trade, I think, 2 first-round picks from the current year, I believe it is. So they're going to give them the 2022 and 2023. But once the draft starts, the 2024 first-round pick is also available as well, so that they could trade out that far ahead. So I'm not saying they're going to do it, but I'm just saying that gives them more ammunition once the draft starts. So you could see something like this happen after the draft has started already. So like I said, just a gut feeling. I just feel like if Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy go into a season with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles as their starting quarterbacks, I mean, they're asking for for trouble, in my opinion.
Trouble's coming one way or another. It's coming. I hope you're right. I hope they land one of those 5 quarterbacks. I just am very, very doubtful. I think it's more likely they may even trade down and then target like a Davis Mills in round.
That could be a case too. Yeah, but I mean, if they come out of, and Davis Mills is a nice prospect as a guy that if you have a Davis Mills or a Kellen Mond as your backup, as your rookie quarterback, but you have a guy like say a Russell Wilson or another, like a Derek Carr starting for you, you're okay with that, right? But you go into a season with the Davis Mills, who's a guy that's got some talent, but he's got some development to do, and you have Andy Dalton as your starting quarterback and possibly Nick Foles as your backup. I mean, that doesn't give you confidence. If the Bears leave the draft with Andy Dalton as a clear-cut number 1 starter, and their young quarterback is pick a name, Kellen Mond, for example. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might be excited about the potential of a Kellen Mond down the road, but next year is going to be rough, I think.
Yep. I am with Josiah saying I just hate Pace trading our future picks. He sucks at doing that.
I trust me. I love picks too, Josiah, and Aldo can vouch for me. I hate giving up draft picks, but if you want one of these quarterbacks, you have to go do it. You have to go trade it. You saw what the 49ers did to move up 9 spots from 12 to 3. They gave up 3 first-round picks, and a third-round pick. So that's what you have to do to get one of these guys.
Well, and if they do that, they will have a lot of cap room next year to replenish. But, I would rather build with a young quarterback with other young players. I mean, I just feel like we're perpetually in a circle where nothing is synchronized for success. When you hire a GM, the first thing you ask him is, what is your vision for this team? And hopefully his response is, I want to bring in a quarterback and a coach at the same time, year one, and then build around those two guys. The vision of the coach is what the scouting department is going to acquire, pro and college, and that quarterback, we're going to get all the players around that quarterback so we ensure success. But that just doesn't seem to happen. In the history of the Chicago Bears, it just never happens. We draft Greg Olsen, and then we bring in Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator, who doesn't like pass-catching tight ends. We fire John Fox after picking the quarterback. It's
Right.
a year out of sync, and
Right.
there's multitude examples. And so I think we're in that same rut, and that's why when people criticize George McCaskey, the McCaskey family, and Ted Phillips, I think that's a legitimate concern, is they don't see how to build a winning organization by having everything synchronized for success. It's like you're fucking piecing shit together, and that's
Right.
no way to win.
And that's another thing that, we talked about earlier, that maybe behind the scenes, Ryan Pace was given some sort of contract extension that runs farther out than Matt Nagy's. And that, I think this, what I'm talking about will kind of tell us, right? Because if the ownership signs off on Ryan Pace mortgaging the future with future draft capital, that tells us that Ryan Pace is going to be there to live out this quarterback that he picks, again, his tenure, right? So, because I doubt, like, that'll be horrible if Ryan Pace goes and trades 3 first-round picks. The Bears, suck. They fire Ryan Pace, and here comes a new general manager who's got no first-round picks for the next 3 seasons. So that would go kind of to your point there, Aldo, in terms of, hey, you know what, it's never in sync, right? Because now you get a whole new regime here, but yet they're handicapped because they have no first-round picks for the next 2-3 seasons. So that's something like, if we see Ryan Pace do what I feel he's going to do, or at least attempt to try and do, I think that tells us more that how much more secure Ryan Pace is in his position than we all think he is.
James Foster says, let's pick up some offensive linemen. He likes Tevin Jenkins, trading down and picking up at 26 or 28. If I remember correctly, you got Jenkins in round 2, right?
I have Mark Jenkins in I believe it was round 3, but I'm not as high on Tevin Jenkins as a lot of people are. For me, he's a guard eventually at the next level. He's going to be a nasty guard because he's got some nastiness in him. So I do like that about him. But attemptly, for me, he's not going to be a left tackle. He may not even be a right tackle. He definitely is going to be a guard for me. So I know a lot of teams are projecting him as a tackle. So we'll see, and probably a right tackle. So we'll see how that goes. But for me, it's not, Tevin Jenkins is not a guy that I would go out shoot for it in the first round. Mm-hmm. Liam Eichenberg is a guy that I do love. The unfortunate thing is he came in, his measurement at the pro day came in at 32, his arm length, which was kind of surprising because at Senior Bowl was 33 plus. So I'm not sure if there was just some sort of error there, but yeah, he's a guy that I absolutely love. He's a guy that for me is a right tackle. He played left tackle at Notre Dame. You put him at the right side and you got your right tackle there for the next 10 years. Yep.
All right. I want to let people know about some programming stuff we've been churning out programs, new programming here at the Barroom Network. For instance, Saturday night, if you are a Chicago Bulls fan, you've got to join us live. Please join us live if you're not doing anything Saturday. And that time on the screen is wrong. It says 10 p.m. Central. It is 11 o'clock Central, where we will have Darnell Mayberry. He covers the Chicago Bulls for The Athletic. He is a tremendous writer. We've interviewed him once before here on a different Barroom program. He's going to be talking to Chris Amundsen and Lara Golden. It's going to be a sensational show. That is Saturday night at 11 p.m. Can't catch it live and interact with the guys? That's fine. It'll be on demand on YouTube and our other various outlets. Then on Monday, I hope you're a White Sox fan because I know Danny's a White Sox fan. We got high expectations for this team. And by the way, if you're a Cubs fan, stay tuned. We got some big news regarding our Cubs show that you are going to love to hear. But South Burbs Hitman is every Monday at 7:30 p.m. The guys have really hit it out of the park. Chuck Garfien was their first guest. Last week it was Randy Merkin, and they've got a great guest lined up for the rest of the season. Later that night, it is Dan Aguirre and me. We like to make fart jokes and talk about our sex lives and talk a lot of Bears too. And then Mike North, Wednesday morning, he's always got a good gambling tip. He's Wednesday at 9:30. He's going to be really fired up about this Mitch Trubisky. He is still on the Mitch Trubisky bandwagon, and he was commenting on all the quotes today from Pace and Nagy. He's just never going to give up on Mitch, that's for sure. And so it's always fun talking.
I think Mitch gave up on Mitch.
It's looking that way when he accepted that deal in Buffalo. He's never going to play in Buffalo. He's never.
Did you hear his first choice was Denver?
Oh no, I didn't.
He wanted to go compete for the job with Drew Lock, but I guess Denver didn't.
Fangio said,
I've seen your ass in practice. No, it's good.
That's right. And then I hope if you're a Blackhawks fan, you really have to tune in to Bar Down Blackhawk Talk. It is so entertaining. These are two brothers, and they just go at it. I mean, I like to tell these stories. These guys, when they disagree, I mean, they really go at it, and they disagree on the weirdest things. Like, for instance, Danny, a straw, right? A straw that you use to drink soda pop or milkshake or whatever. How many holes does it have?
2, right?
That's what I say. But one of the brothers says it's 1. And they going at it for 5-10 minutes. It's got 2. No, it's got 1. But they know their hockey. Like, football. These guys know hockey. They are just excellent, excellent hosts. Episode number 2 will be Wednesday at 2:00. And again, all these shows are on demand. If you can't join us live, check us out. And then we've got our new basketball show that's on Thursdays, the Ellis brothers. That is Tyler, that is Jordan, and that is Joshua Ellis, 3 brothers who love the game of basketball, played a lot of basketball in their days. So not only do they talk basketball, but they also give out some betting tips and talk about financial gain. They don't call it gambling. They call it investing. And so it's really interesting how they approach that whole thing. And then, of course, the pièce de résistance. It is Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski talking the Bears draft. That's on Thursday. We have so many shows. I'm thinking to myself, did I forget one of the shows that's gone this week? I probably did, and I got yelled at by the producer.
The phone show.
He's not on this week.
Okay.
John is taking this week off. We've got special plans for that's right. We got special plans for John. Danny, Neil, and I were talking about our draft week schedule, and
it's gonna be awesome, guys. It's gonna be wall-to-wall draft coverage. It's gonna be phenomenal. I can't wait. I'm so excited about it.
Me too, man. This is like Shane Marshall used to say, this is Christmas for us football fans, and he was absolutely right. If you're a football fan, you gotta love draft week. It is definitely outstanding. Let's see what the comments are, and then we'll head out of here. Travis says about Trubisky. Fangio said, "Hell no."
Right. I'm good.
Really, James Foster. All the mocks just change rankings this week. Yeah, that is true, right? All the mocks are by the way, you guys, if you've been watching the show now for the last hour, you saw a video with Danny's top 10 quarterbacks. We're going to be churning out more videos like that, Danny's offensive linemen and blah, blah, blah. And then as we get closer to the draft, Danny and Neil and a bunch of other barroom people will release their mock drafts, and they'll be brilliantly produced by somebody named Aldo Gandia, and you'll find them on
the business.
Thank you. Anyways, lots of great comments here. I want to thank everybody. We had a lot of live people join us. It's on a Friday night. That's great numbers, and thanks for your enthusiasm. And then Danny, thank you very much for jumping in at the last minute. I said, hey, we need to talk about this, and Neil really wanted to join us, but he had a previous commitment, so it was my bad that I didn't plan ahead. But you hit it out of the park as you always do, and thanks very much. Any closing comments?
No, I'm just like I said, just looking forward to it. Hopefully we're not get any more Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy press conferences after the draft, where they can talk about some actual players. So, like I said, I know it's bleak out there, guys. I know there's fans that want to bear, jump off the bandwagon. They want to bar the Bears from their living rooms. They want to put them on a TV. I want to watch them anymore. I'm just saying, I don't want to sound like Aaron Rodgers, but relax. RELAX. Just let's see what happens
on Aaron Rodgers, all that drama. But you're right. Relax. I love
Let's just see what happens to the draft. Let's see what they come up with after. Now, after the draft, if Andy Dalton and Nick Foles and pick quarterback name you want, Kellen Mond's on the roster, then I'm going to be a little worried there. I'm going to be a little worried in terms of what this team has in terms of what they're going to present next year on product wise on the field. So we'll see how it goes. But until then, let's see what happens. Let's see what transpires. Like I said, I have this feeling that something's going to happen. I don't know how big it's going to be, but I think he's going to go out, and typically Ryan Pace, when he wants to address a position, he addresses it in multiple facets, and he goes out all out and he goes big. So we'll see if my hunch is accurate this time as well.
I hope you are 100% correct. And so on to our next show. Well, actually, you and I will be talking 100 times before our next show. So again, thanks very much for stepping in and doing an outstanding job as you always do.
My pleasure.
Thank you all for tuning in, and tell your friends about what we're doing here at the Barroom Network, and give them a link to the show, and hopefully they'll enjoy it as much as you have. So we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.